mastermind a little bit. So number one, when I get to that part of the sale, right, when we start explaining what the course is, and again, it depends if somebody's left brain, right brained, or both. But certainly if they're very left brained, then I will definitely mechanically go through the, what they're getting. But you should already have a time commitment. Does everybody know what I mean by that in the sales flow?
When you say, you mean where it falls in the?
Yeah, because right before that in red letters on the sales flow, it says, it says get a time commitment, basically, right? It's, yeah, a phrase like, we can get you from 5K to 50K a month, but before we dig into that too much deeper, the program we have is a 6-month commitment. Are you more, would you say you're kind of wishing for this thing, hoping for it, or are you committed? And let me explain the difference, right? People that are wishing for something, they'll kind of do whatever is convenient, but people that are committed, they'll do whatever it takes. So would you say that you're more wishing to get to 50K a month, or you're committed? So that's very, that's right from Arash, right? Are you wishing or are you committed? That's highlighting what that is. But I want to get the time commitment. At least this is me. And, what I do is what I do. And it's not like it's anything other than what I do, right? But I always get a time commitment before I release the investment or even think about that. Because if you can't get a time commitment, good luck getting the monetary commitment. And if you can't get the time commitment, it tells you you haven't sold them on the idea. It's a good way to check in. If they're like, well, I don't know, if they hem and haw, 9 out of 10 times by this point, and I've written this down, I have it. I have people say 1,000,000% I'm all in, like I can't even get the phrase out. And if I've done a good presentation and we've highlighted some things and they now understand paradigm and there's been some breakthroughs, I have people say 1,000,000, I'm all in, 100, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So 9 out of 10 times I get a pretty strong response to that question. Makes sense. So make sure you guys don't overlook that part. To me, that's also the time where I look at my watch and it says right on the sheet here, right? Check your time and schedule. Has it been 40 minutes? If it's been, 40 minutes or something, I'll move to a second call. It's like, great, let's do this. Steve, we've been talking for a little bit here now. I'd love to get back on a call, kind of process what we've talked about here. I'll explain exactly what we do. We'll break it down. And I think from that call, we'll be able to make a decision if it's a fit or not to work together. So I'll schedule the next call, if they say, well, how much is it? I'd say, well, how much is what? No. Well, honestly, the whole reason for getting on the next call is so we can figure out if it's a fit to work together or not. We have a few different programs. I'm still not exactly sure, which would be right for you. And that's why I want to get on another call. So you always want to be in control of that and never drop the price until you're ready to. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I just want to add something really quickly. If you notice what Brian did, he held his posture. Mm-hmm. Meaning he didn't say, well, let's talk about that next time. He said, hey, I'm not even sure if it's a good fit for us to work with you. Mm-hmm. And not in an elevated way, just very matter-of-fact way, like, hey, let's come together and discern what's the best fit for you, without saying, hey, it's 10 grand, can you give me a credit card right now?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a personal thing that you get a feel for whether or not you should go for the sale right there and then or not, depending on energy and time. And if you've set it up properly, when you first get on a call, I know Steve's really good at this, hey, just checking in. Do we still, what kind of time do you have for the call? If they say, well, I'm pretty free, I got home, everything's fine. Or if I got 20 minutes, you want to kind of frame that in the beginning and understand that. So let's say, you're on the second call. That's usually what happens with me is that'll be a second call. We want to get them re-engaged, right? Hey, Steve, last time we talked, we were talking about getting you from 5K to 50K. The reason for that is you wanted to retire your parents. You got a sister that needs this. You want to move out of Massachusetts because it's cold, right? We get back into their reasons, get them emotionally involved in why. And then we move into explaining what it is, So again, so if it's left brain, I'll say, the first lesson we get into is goal setting. The reason why most people never really succeed, and I mean like 97% of the planet, is they never really clearly identify what they want. What they're identifying is what they think they can get. So the reason we spend 2 weeks with the goal setting lesson is you're probably not aware of what a goal is for or what it is, or you probably never really set what we call a C-type goal. And I'll ask them, what do you think the purpose of a goal is? And they'll say, whatever, it's a target, it's this, that. Very rarely are they going to say that it's meant to cause you to grow and stretch and think.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what the purpose of a goal is, to cause a human being to grow and stretch and think and become, almost like an acorn becomes an oak tree. And, traditional schooling and traditional measures in business, we're taught to set really small goals, 5% a year, 10% a year. We would never think about setting a goal of 1,000% growth, 10x growth. And when I learned this lesson myself, it was within a couple of weeks, it was a huge revelation. This is what caused me to set the goal of 10 million a year. So you could tell us, you could relate to a story there, your story, something like that. But I'll usually teach a little bit about that. What is the C-type goal? Why do we have it? And educate them that way, especially for a left brain person. I would always talk about a goal and what it is and how we teach it. What's a C-type goal? Lesson 2 is all about something we call the knowing doing gap, right? There's probably the biggest reason most people fail globally. It's not that they don't know what to do, right? Everybody knows that we should be eating healthy, drinking water, not soda, eating lean proteins and vegetables and fruits, and not going to McDonald's 3 times a day. Everybody knows how to eat healthy. Everybody also knows, for the most part, that when you start working, you should be putting, 10% a month away towards something that's going to grow your wealth over time. I didn't do that one. I worked for General Electric. I worked in the engineering field, construction. I've been working for years, and I didn't, I knew to do that, but I never did it. That's something we call the knowing doing gap. And I would ask them, are you familiar with what that is? And usually it's going to be no. And I would teach on how that the subconscious mind is 1,000,000 times more powerful as a data storage center. Once we have a program in there, like smoking or wealth building, it's in there, and there's a process to write new programs. There's a process to build new habits. And we've worked with people all over the world, all different ages, men, women, young, old. In one commonality, it's not that they don't know what to do, it's they don't know why they're not doing it. Does that make sense? And I would give them an example, maybe one of my own examples or one of your examples, but I would do a little bit of teaching on what the knowing doing gap is. We spend 2 weeks in this because it's one of the most foundational reasons why most people don't succeed. So a lot of times when I'm explaining the lessons, I use a lot of finite terms. If you're talking to somebody left brain, 97% of the world's failing because it's some very simple things, right? So you're going to get into facts and figures and things of that nature. If they're right brained, again, it's going to be more storytelling and stuff. You might relate one of your own stories, or certainly one of the people here. We have, there's no shortage of stories, but you'd use a story to illustrate the knowing doing gap or something of that nature. Now, I don't explain every single lesson. I want to be really clear on that. I usually pick 3 or 4 lessons that I think would really relate to them. Lesson 3 is on the infinite mind. We're born infinite. A brand new baby has no fear, no doubt, no worry. It'll crawl right into an intersection with no fear. We learned fear. We learn limiting beliefs. These are learned behaviors. And I might give an example. If they were born as Warren Buffett's child, take them down the road like that. Or imagine if you were born here. I might do a scenario where you imagine a different surrounding, right? So we're born infinite. And lesson 3 is on your infinite mind and living from the inside out. And lesson 4 is on something we call the mind map or the secret genie. This is where we really dig into your conscious, your subconscious, your body, and how to use the equipment that you were given from birth that you've never been taught how to use. You know, we've never had a course in grade school called your subconscious mind or the mind map, right? And they've probably never seen the stick person before. If you're on a Zoom, you might pull it up and do a little teaching off the stick man. So lesson 4 is we take a deep dive into the mind map. And, you know, imagine if you were in school and you learned some of this stuff and you learned wealth building or you learned real estate in grade school, you know, instead of a little math, a little English, a little science, a little history. What would that look like? And it's just so true, right? When you think about this stuff, we're not taught decision, we're not taught self-image, but understanding the mind map for me, guys, was really, that's when I saw the keys to the kingdom. That's when I saw, holy cow, like this is the operating manual on a human. That was the big aha moment for me. Lesson 5 is on environment. And this is one of the most impactful things. And right now, guys, you can use COVID, right? COVID is a good example of how the whole world was impacted by the environment. Most people are living in a reactive state, just getting blown around by COVID in the media, the weather. If it's rainy out, people get upset, traffic jams, right? And what we teach is how the 1% think and act and operate and process information. We teach you to live from the inside out. Happiness has nothing to do with who you're with, what your job is, how much income you have, or if you're married or single. Happiness is a frequency. It's an inside out thing. It's a choice every single morning. And in lesson 5, we're going to teach you not to be in a reactive state. They might ask them, have you ever gotten pissed off in a traffic jam? Have you ever gotten into an argument with your spouse or your children or coworkers? Maybe ask them a couple of things. Have they ever, right? What do you think about when it's rainy out? Does that bother you? Ask them some questions, get them thinking, you know? So when we're going through these lessons, the more you can get them to engage and think, the better off you guys are going to be. But I always talk about lesson 5, no matter who it's with. Because our environment, for most people, it's controlling the hell out of them in a big way, you know? Especially things like family, like spousal rejection. You know, I give some of my own examples about being divorced or something. I'm very vulnerable. I think you guys know that. I'm very open with people, very transparent when I'm telling my stories or something of that nature. So I think environment is one of the biggest ones, no matter what, to kind of hone in on and just show them what most people are doing, right? Most people are driving to jobs they don't love, getting into traffic jams, not earning what they want to earn. They're not living in the body they want to live in. Your body is part of your environment. Right? I would say to them that you're not your body, you're a spirit living in a body. And if somebody has a body that they don't love, that can be a reaction to an environmental stimulus, right? So there's a lot of things you can teach on an environment. I usually spend some time there. I talk about, and I went live about this today, your mental state of mind is your first sort of layer of environment, right? We're consciousness, we're spirit, and then the first environment is our mental state, our state of mind, you know, high vibration, low vibration, our thoughts. And the next layer of environment is your body, the physical body. Your body, Steve can probably attest to this one, your body can pull you around, right? That can be a pretty serious environmental stimulant. I've you know, we've all had some version of that where it's like, boy, it's hard to focus. It's hard to stay positive. It's hard to be happy. Hard to like think about other people when we're suffering, you know? So you can give some of your own examples again, you know? If you've had a divorce, if you've had an injury, if you had any dis-ease that you had to get through, relate to the people, you know? And we're all working on this, right? I never claimed to be perfect or a robot. We're all working on this together. And I might give an example there. So I think lesson 5 is a really good one to dig into. Lesson 6 is on self-image. So for me, I only do self-image if I think somebody has an issue with their self-image. Not everybody does. I wouldn't have been a good one to sell with self-image. I was really good to sell with goal setting and knowing doing gap. For me personally,
Self-worth is considered to be part of self-image.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. If you don't think you're worthy, if people aren't confident, well, I can never public speak. If they're really shy, if they get embarrassed, that's a self-image type of thing. You could tell by the conversation at this point. And I'd be circling these and taking notes. Like when I'm going through the discovery, I'll write down lesson 1, lesson 7, like I'll hear and I'll be like, so I already know the lessons I'm going to go through by the time we get there. I'm going through all of them now because we're doing this exercise, not because that's what I would do. I would go 1, 2, 5, 9 and call it a day with some people. So I usually go through 4 in depth. I might skim over them so they get the gist of all 12 lessons. I have done that, but I would only go deep on like 4 of them in the interest of time and things of that nature. But lesson 6 is on self-image, and we can never outperform our self-image, right? Everybody has 2 images. It's the one that's inside that you talk to God about, and the one we're projecting to the world. And most people's images are very far apart. What we do in Thinking in the Results is we teach you to build the image of the exact person you want to be so that they're pretty damn near close to the same exact image. That's where transparency comes from. I wasn't always this transparent. I've learned to not care what people think. You get very transparent when you don't care what people think, in a healthy way, not in an ignorant way. Well, that's how we give lessons. I don't care what people think about my divorces or lost $500,000 in construction. I've taken multiple 6-figure hits. I'm sure at some point I'll probably take a 7-figure hit, The key is, how do you respond to it? How do you respond to it? So self-image is a very powerful one for a lot of people. Lesson 7 is how to overcome fear and procrastination. This is another, I'll usually talk about lesson 7 to almost everybody. This is one of the things, other than the knowing doing gap, not knowing how to override your subconscious programming. Fear causes procrastination. And most times, guys, it's a fear of what other people think. Right? It's not a fear that you're going to get foreclosed on. It's what's my family and friends going to think about my foreclosure. It's not a fear of it's not a fear of starting in a network marketing company. It's a fear of what your engineer colleagues might think of you starting in that company. It's not a fear of getting divorced. It's what's my family and friends going to think about that perceived failure. So I'll explain some things like that. And whenever we go to do something that's big and new, your protection mechanism can cause anxiety because it's a new idea. And again, if you have the mind map handy, I would pull it out and show them what an XY vibration is. Everybody here know what that means when I say XY vibration? Anybody not? Oh, I do like that background, Laura. That's funny. Cute. Yeah, it's a double binding message, right? If somebody's at 100,000 a year and they want to get to 100,000 a month, it's going to be confusing to the conscious and the subconscious. And if we start to act on it and really move towards it, we can get anxiety, which doesn't feel good. And there's 2 ways to get through anxiety. You either push through it anyway, and you suffer through the discomfort and move forward anyway, or you stop thinking and you just go back to doing what you were doing yesterday. And most people, they do option 2, right? They don't like the feeling of the anxiety, so they don't do the public speaking. They don't start the business. They don't move forward with breaking up the relationship. It's easier to just stay and not feel that feeling than it is to face it and push forward. But the 1%, which is what we teach, we move forward. We move forward in the face of fear, and we build a habit of doing that. And again, this is where you might pull in some of your own examples.
I guess it's very important that, and Bob told it, and that was very, very interesting to me in one of the videos up on YouTube, that it's a chemical reaction in the body that'll be absolutely unusual for the body. So it's chemicals that are going to appear in the body due to this whole reaction, and that's going to be absolutely unusual. It's going to be very strange, very, very annoying, and makes you pretty much excited, and especially anxiety hits in. And when people realize that it is really a chemical reaction in their body, so they are not only thinking that they are feeling different, but it's really, they are actually feeling different because their body is
Absolutely, yeah. The body will release.
It's very important.
The body will release chemicals, right? And that's part of that, but that's already into the physical at that point, right? So it starts with the mental conflict, and then the body says, right, fight or flight. And that's what happens. So it's a physical reaction, and it may not feel good,
Not knowing it, basically.
Not knowing is the problem.
I didn't anticipate that. Yeah, it's going to be such a strange thing. Yeah, you need to anticipate and then just act.
Yep. And that's the thing. It's not. I always tell people it's not that we're going to teach you not to fear. We're going to teach you how to process the information so that you move towards your goals in the face of fear. Mm-hmm. It's not the same with Bob. It's not that he doesn't have that feeling and that fear. He minimizes it though, right? You take it, you squish it up, you put it in a little box, and it goes away a lot quicker than it used to, type of thing, And anybody here that does public speaking, you always get those little butterflies, and now they're just little butterflies, but in the early days, they were like, holy cow, like I'm gonna black out. This is not gonna be good, And what we teach in lesson 7 is pushing through the terror barrier, right? And they might say something like single-handedly one of the biggest lessons. Based on them, you can magnify it, but that is a big one. Lesson 7 is one of the ones I explain a lot. Lesson 8 is on something called praxis, which is just Latin for combining belief and behavior. We're going to show you how to build a whole new belief system, but there is a physical component to this, and you do need to know how to combine the spirit, the intellect, and the body to create results. So lesson 8, we're going to spend 2 weeks on understanding, aligning beliefs and behaviors. Lesson 9 is on attitude and perspective. And I always ask them this question, what is your understanding of what the word attitude is? And they generally won't be able to say, Adam's a nice guy. He treats people nice. He has a good attitude. That might be part of it in the intellect and maybe even the spirit, but attitude is a composite word, right? Human beings, we exist on 3 planes: spirit, intellect, and body. You're not a body, you're a spirit expressing physically. And it's funny when people say, I had a spiritual experience. It's like, no, you're having a physical experience, right? You are a spirit having a physical experience. But since we're not taught any of this stuff in schools, and since we've grown up the last couple of centuries in a mechanical age, we got this all ass backwards. But everything starts as energy before it's a real thing. And you guys have seen me a million times hold up my iPhone. This iPhone used to be thought energy. But it was Steve Jobs' attitude that got it to become a real thing. He visualized it, and he used his intellect to talk to people and to pass on the idea and to get people creating. And then he took a lot of physical action, meetings, conference meetings, butt kicking, whatever he did all over the world to get that thing to happen. So I'll explain to them we exist on 3 planes, spirit, intellect, and body. And attitude is thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? We think in the spirit, we feel in the subconscious, and then we express through the body. So in lesson 9, you're going to learn at a deep level how, for the first time in your life, I say a lot of things like that. For the first time in your life, you're going to learn how to do this, or you're going to feel this, you're going to understand this. So there's a lot of that type of phraseology throughout explaining this stuff. For the first time in your life, you're going to learn how to think and act and operate like the 1%. And what do you think happens if you literally think, act, and operate like the 1%? Well, you get the results of the 1%. That's why this is different than any other program taught in the world. So there's another finite, right? I've taken almost every course under the sun. I've taken this, I've taken that. You probably have too, but I've never seen anybody teaching paradigms, what they are, how they got there, and more importantly, how to build a new one. That's what separates Bob and Brian, whatever you want to say, from every other course in the world. Because that is one of the overwhelming questions that people have. Why is this different? So by the time you explain this, quite honestly, a good presentation, you've neutralized almost everything. You've minimized investment. You've neutralized why it's different. You've given the values. That makes sense. A good presentation, you're actually attacking all the objections in your presentation. I remember this one time we had this client, Kenny Coleman. I mean, this kid was 22 years old. And I had a conversation just like this. Quite honestly, I didn't think I was going to hear from him again. He was hungry. He was very hungry. And he seemed to want to really go after it, but he was making $2,000 a month, you know? So I gave him some homework and, you know, don't I know it, 2 days later, he calls me up. He says, I got the money. So the kid sold his car. I'm not suggesting you sell your car, but that's the definition of when I talked about commitment. So before we even get to the price, I've already said something like that to neutralize the future objection. Make sense? Lesson 10 is on the most valuable person. And who do you think the most valuable person is? I'll always ask them that. Right? And some of you may even still struggle with this. Well, it's my kids, it's my wife, it's my spouse. It's like, it's always, always, always going to be you. And that's not a selfish thing. I guess it is a selfish thing, but selfish can be healthy. We need a certain amount of selfish if we're going to become the higher, fuller expression of ourself and help all the other people around us. Now, most of the time you guys are talking to the decision maker in the family. Most of the time, sometimes not, but if you are, and I think I probably talked to Steve about this, you're the king of the castle. You cannot help your family or your network marketing team or anybody else around you if you're not expressing at a high level and magnifying your results. And I knew Steve wanted to help a lot of people. I said, well, people follow results, right? And if somebody does want to teach and coach and train and pass on, so the first thing you can do is demonstrate that you understand something that people don't. That's what causes them to follow. So lesson 10 is all about the most valuable person. And I tell them usually there too, I said, you realize that you are the center of the universe? Makes them kind of look a little funny. But think about it. We all have our own consciousness about, and it does, everything is around us. You're all extras in my movie. I'm an extra in your movie. We're on planet Earth, but our consciousness is the center of what we know. The universe is all around us. You don't feel like you're at the edge of the universe, do you? Right? We are the center through our consciousness. Lesson 11 is on the impression of increase. And I don't spend a ton of time with this. I just explained to them, how beautiful would it be if the entire world, every single interaction was trying to leave every other human being better off than they found them. No more flipping people off in traffic jams. Everybody lets each other go. You go, no, you go, no, you go. Right? And at the grocery store, do you even recognize that there's a grocery clerk there? Just imagine what it would be like if everybody had the presence of mind and the paradigm and the programming to think about each other and try to leave everybody better off than you found them, even if it's just with a smile. So you usually get some pretty good head nodding on that one. Impression of increase, a healthy way to live. So that was one of the biggest lessons for me, that I didn't know how powerful it was. I see people a lot more now, and I still work on this than I used to, certainly than I used to, from that lesson. And then lesson 12, it wraps it up nicely. It's on the mastermind principles. And if you're going to build a big company, network marketing company, real estate, whatever it is you want to do, more than likely, you're going to have to learn how to translate that idea to other people effectively. And that's what lesson 12 is, that it's understanding the mastermind principles and how to relate your ideas to other people. And it's also about self-leadership, right? Self-discipline, self-leadership, willpower, understanding, again, how the world's wealthiest people think and act and operate and how they create companies and businesses. So that's usually the spiel, guys. 12 lessons, make them your own. I don't need the list that we used to have, Steve, anymore. I had that on my desk for years. I did. It was always there, but I don't need that anymore. But you guys want to go through that and have some really aha. You should be able to have an aha moment with each lesson. Something that most people wouldn't know about the lesson. And that's part of your presentation too, a bulletproof presentation. By the time you go through that, people should say, holy cow, like I haven't heard most of that. Right? And then I would just say, listen, this is how we deliver the course. There's a few different parts to it. You get the content, the 12 lessons from 62 years of Bob's study, and you own that content for life. Right? We have a mastermind group on Facebook. You're in that group for life as well. So some of this is a lifetime journey together. The program we teach is 6 months, 12 lessons. It's 2 weeks per lesson. It's home-based study. It's meant for entrepreneurs. It's not a big time suck. It's like 15 minutes twice a day, every day at your own leisure. You're watching little lessons in repetition. And then we meet once a week in a mastermind group with people just like you that are going from blank to blank, and insert your own blank to blank. But that's important. People just like you, how often are you around like-minded people? You can ask them that. You're at 5K, you want to get to 50K a month. Are you around a lot of people that are doing that? That's what this group is. All of these people from all over the world are coming together because they all know that there's more, and they all understand that we need to invest in ourselves and study to do it. Right. So Steve, I think you'd be absolutely amazing. The course over the 6 months is 10K, but before we really dig into that, we've been talking for twice now, about 40 minutes last time, 40 minutes this time. We're showing you exactly how the most successful people think and act and operate. For the first time in your life, you're getting this information. And I remember when I was there too. I want you to imagine, us working together, me holding your hand through this, getting in a community of like-minded people, getting the content of how people like Warren Buffett and Steve Jobs process information. Where can you imagine that you would be, 6 months, 12 months from now? What are some of the things you think would happen? And that's somewhere you want to spend some time too. If they give you a quick little answer, they might, well, I'm not exactly sure I would be. Well, I know you're not exactly sure, but what we're trying to do is get you to use the imagination. It's actually part of lesson 5. There's a conscious faculty of imagination that's probably very weak right now. If you can't imagine what it would be like at 50K a month, you're never going to get there. And don't beat yourself up, because I wasn't too good at this either. So I just kind of insulted him a little bit, right? So don't be, I was doing the same thing, but I know you don't know for sure, but where can you imagine you would be? I want you to think about it. Where would you be living? What would you be doing? Who would you be helping? What would you be driving? Get them to imagine. This is part of your job. And then once they get into that role and they're imagining pretty good, hey, Steve, I think this would be amazing to work together. Are you up for doing this? That's it. And then obviously if there's an objection, you get into objection handling. So let's talk about the 12 lessons. Who has any input, questions, comments, anything about explaining the 12 lessons?
I usually would like to demonstrate to them the power of the subconscious mind with this very simple exercise. You put your palm on the top of your head here.
Want us to do it?
Put your palm on your top of your head. The palm. Yeah, it's not your palm. It's not your palm. It's not your palm. This is your palm. And this is very, very, so powerful to show them that your intention by your conscious mind was actually taking your palm. If you were sitting closed eyes and I say, put your palm on the top of your head, you would actually do that. You could have done that. But your subconscious mind, you're basically taking the visual inputs, your subconscious immediately said, I need to do what the guy shows, not what he says, and bang.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Very simple thing, and it's powerful. I mean, it's their subconscious mind basically driving them in a different direction that they could take.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Steve likes that too. Steve squared. What else about the 12 lessons, guys, or anything that we talked about?
Loved it so much.
To me, actually, the most valuable person is about leadership. To me, I mean, that's. I mean,
it is. Self-leadership. Yeah.
Haven't really heard. I mean, I was into leadership as like John Maxwell and stuff, and I haven't really heard such a powerful lesson in such a short time with like 20 minutes on leadership and how to really grab the essence of leadership. And I usually say that I have translated 7 books on John Maxwell, but this 20 minutes that I get from Bob is just a whole different world of understanding how to really go about it. And usually because this is my conviction that really these 20 minutes are the essence, and you actually have this 20 minutes playing all over in 2 weeks in your mind. It's going to be much powerful punch in leadership than you would ever could deliver. You could read 5 John Maxwell books, and this 20 minutes just basically just kicks it.
You know, sometimes people ask us, how is it possible that how come that we are just John Maxwell team trainers, coaches, and speakers, and yet we teach Bob Proctor's material? And exactly this is the point where we can explain it so clearly why we do that. This is the point where Bob Proctor is so close to Maxwell, and Maxwell is so close to Bob. Mm-hmm. So this is just a beautiful argument why we are here. And it was just really mind-blowing when we listened to it for the first time, I remember. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I look at most of what John Maxwell does is teaching mechanics, and most of what Bob does is teaching spirit and paradigm. Yes. They definitely overlap, but then I would say you need to study both.
Yes.
Right?
John Maxwell speaks about spirituality, but it may rather be religion, you know.
Yeah.
A different spirituality. Yeah. What he uses spirituality for has a different meaning. Mm-hmm. So this is really so interesting. And we find it much more complex. So this is why we are here.
Yeah. So it's all part of that presentation. And again, this is the part where Arash like really drills his team. You guys, you want to be working on your presentation always. You don't ever want to get stale. Practice with each other. You know, we have different parts of the world here, different ages, you know. You guys should definitely be practicing with each other, and always working on your presentation. You know, is it on point? Is it the little things too? Are you asking them, does that resonate? Does that make sense? Are they nodding when you're going through the presentation? You want to master that thing. That's, unless when you're talking about closing, a close is actually a natural part of a really good presentation. For the most part, it should be, you know, are you up for doing this together, and maybe solving a little bit of logistics. But if we've done well, it won't be like a big fight, you know?
Yeah, I think I know my paradigm, I end up accepting their paradigm.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't let them off the hook. Like, I shouldn't even tolerate their paradigm, because they don't even know what they're saying. It's their paradigm talking, especially when it comes to the money piece.
So I would say that I'm very literal, you know. They say, well, let me think about it. I'm like, you don't even know why you just said that. Like, call them right out, you know.
Yeah.
Brian, you remember what I told you on Saturday?
Oh no, go ahead and say that again, because that was brilliant.
Actually, I don't know. I did several things, but one came into my mind. When they say they have to think about it, or they just want to postpone the answer, I just put them the question directly this way. What prevents you from saying no or yes right away? But the sequence is important, not yes or no, no or yes, because they say the last word is the one that sticks with you. And then they really open up, and this is the point where they start speaking about their fear, money, and family, and all the things like that. And that is the point where I do start smiling, and they don't understand why. And I just thank them for being so open. And I tell them, yes, this is it. This is where your paradigms are. And I tell them about the paradigm's role, that your paradigm just does not want you to move into unknown territories. And just this is just we teach in the book, you know. Mm-hmm. This is what you show, what we teach. It's just anything that you should be worried about. You act absolutely naturally. This is how your paradigm should work. And then they just look at me like that. And don't worry about it, and don't be mad at yourself. This is what your paradigm's task is. It just wants you to prevent from anything new and unknown. And then, you know, they just calm down, And they may be thinking about it, but they come back with a totally different attitude. Or they may as well say, okay, yes, where can I pay?
Mhm. That's a real, that might, Leslie, you might try that. Let's just get right to it. What is it that would prevent you from saying no or yes?
Love that. I
Actually,
love
this class is just amazing. I'm gonna watch it all over again, because you have been doing a tremendous job, Brian, explaining all the lessons. And what I'm thinking, our presentation should be something like when we are into it, really in the spirit of it, and go through the presentation, we need to feel. I feel if I give a good presentation, I feel that if I go back to that time when I didn't know that material, this is the time I would actually join again. I mean, when you're done with your presentation, you did a good job. You should be feeling the same thing. Hell, I made such a good decision, and if it was today, I need to make a decision. I would join again. Now that I was telling, I'm
From your own, from your own presentation. Yeah.
I mean that frequency. I'm going to join again. And I remember that, of course, network marketing is a great example for that. But all the team members of, after a good presentation, they are coming over. Man, you did such a good job. I'm joining again today. It was such an impact on me. So we need to, and this is what you've done. I don't know whether you guys know this term, the Elijah Bowie term, this mind movie. We are actually creating mind movies to the guys, how from the state they are right now, they are going to transform through the lessons, and how his journey is going to be like really not a journey only on raising your income, but really a journey for such feelings that you actually get into becoming a 1%er in your cells. And that's how you think, act, and operate. By the end, you get to the end of the movie, they are feeling like Elon Musk. They're feeling like Steve Jobs. We need to put them into that state to feel like you see, it's so easy to become an Oprah Winfrey. I mean, we have just done it in a 40-minute presentation.
I remember, Brian, you asked me to share this other thing with the team. I remembered now. Can you remember when I said something about the affirmation money?
Yeah, what was that?
Yes, you said that you loved it so much that I should share it with the team. When they say yes, but they want to procrastinate, they want to pay later. I just have the feeling, or they say nothing. I just ask them if they would like to confirm their decision. And they just look at me. Confirm? How? I said, okay, open your purse, put down some money. To confirm, you mean it seriously. And what happened was 2 weeks ago that one of my clients said, it was a Friday. And she said, okay, I can do that on Monday. And I said, no, do it now. Shall I? Yes, please do it now then. If you mean it serious, do it now. But why? Isn't it enough on Monday? No, it isn't now. And she just wanted to postpone it. And I said, I'm not going to say anything now. Just do it now and we will talk about it. And then she just sent some money. And then came the real turning point. Sometimes I say two things, but I this time I just said, come on, this was a test. You passed the test. You are destined to success. And she just looks at me with open eyes and I say, this is how the most successful people react and operate. They just make a decision quickly and they just keep their decisions, act on it, and you are just destined to success. And I congratulate them on their decision and on their paying. And also what I say is that I am very grateful to you and I thank you for trusting me, because at this very point, you can only trust me. And I'm very grateful for your trust. And the rest is to come. Your new life is to begin now.
I love that. I love that. I'm stealing that. I'm sorry.
This is the point.
That's the whole point. Yeah.
This is the point. This is mastermind, right?
Yes.
This is why we are here, to learn from each other. And if you can use it, just use it. This is just, as I say, this is a little pearl of my shell. So this is how I just came to it. It didn't come like that. I mean, this comes by practice.
One thing I've been having a little bit of a challenge with is not focusing so much on the presentation and the sale aspect of it. and focusing more on how can I get that person to recognize the impact that the material can have on them. And I just don't know if anybody has any suggestions on how to look at it from that perspective versus, okay, you know what I mean? Like, of course I want to get the sale, but I think first and foremost, it's just how can I help that person? But I'm a little bit conflicted with looking at it that way when I get on the call.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I think what you're alluding to is it's going to be about storytelling. The way to illustrate to another human is through another human's story, usually. Something they can relate to. If I say environmental stimulus and I say 9/11, that was an environmental stimulus. The Holocaust was an environmental stimulus, COVID. So, and when you can relate to a story, if they're young, you might have a young person story. This is why like storytelling, selling is a huge part of this. Having a arsenal of stories at your fingertips. If you ever listen to Bob at anything, he's always, he does both sides, left brain, right brain, facts, story, content, story, content, story. He's always doing both, So the same thing with the lessons. If I'm working with somebody that's really right brain, it'll be mostly stories about the lessons. Oh, when I started working with Patrick and we showed him what a goal was, this is what happened in his life. Steve, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I just had a quick comment. And thank you for adding that, Brian. I think Brian's absolutely right. That's just in communication, right? And Kayla, what I heard from you, like there seems to be maybe a separation in the idea of serving somebody and creating a sale.
Yeah,
Right?
that's, and I'm trying to focus more on helping the person, but the back of my mind, I keep thinking about
offer you
the
something
sale.
because it's a really simple answer. I like simple. How about you?
I agree.
All right, great. Is it okay if I give it to you?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. So just remember that sale and serving are the same thing. So when you're speaking to them to serve them, know that, take the idea of selling and just, take the S and create it in serving. I think that'll just be a great fit for you. There's no separation. There's no, step one, step two. It's all one process. And I think if you just bring your heart for serving others, focused on, Brian's TIR sheet, the sale will just naturally take care of itself. And how do you impact them with the material? You impact them with you first.
Mm.
People don't care about how much you know, Kayla, until they know how much you care. And I think you probably most likely demonstrate that in every conversation because you seem to have a heart for serving others naturally anyways. So I hope that's helpful to you.
May I
Thank
add
you,
something?
yes.
What if you just articulate exactly the same thing? You will be so vulnerable. When you tell the person, listen, I'm not doing it to you, but I'm doing it for you. And this may look like a sale, which actually it is. And this is serving you. I'm doing it for you. When you just articulate these words, you are not afraid of them anymore. And you just live them.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think sales is naturally, I mean, there's an ask, but it's really, and I love what was just said, because what you're really selling them in is on the life that they could have if you're present in the conversation and the timing is right in their lives.
If you have a scale with two plates, the right and the one and the left, and we are talking about a sale, Elijah Bowie is always saying that the sale is going to happen if they think that what they're going to get is outweighs the money that they pay for it. I think it's very easy. If they know that they will get, like, for example, $1 million, they would easily pay $100,000 for that $1 million. If you're thinking about, let's say you have a $1 bill and you get $10 bill when you pay that $1 bill for, that's a simple sale. It's very, very simple. And just think about what's going on in TIR. They actually pay a finite amount of money for their infinite potential to really get their infinite potential in their hand for life. I mean, this is the best fucking deal ever. Guys, just be honest, isn't it? a finite
it.
amount of money,
Sentence so much, yes.
a finite amount of money for their infinite potential for life.
Yeah, that goes back to the
It's
presentation
just simple
too.
logic. It's just simple logic. I mean, I'm thinking about how could I end up, being invited to an inner circle meeting in Las Vegas.
Hmm.
I mean, it's impossible basically from the state I was in like 6 months ago. But since the material I got into started working, I raised my vibration, things happened. We met with Brian and we showed, commitment, and we're actually doing the stuff, and things are just happening, and we are actually pulled into that circle of people who are actually taking actions and be responsible for their lives, and of course invest themselves and invest into lots of things. But it's finite investment for infinite potential. Very plain to see. It's service.
Laura, we got to grab that tagline right there. That
What's
was,
that?
You said, say it again. Say it one more time, Adam.
It's a finite amount of money for getting your infinite potential in your hand for life.
Oh, I do like that.
Finite
Yeah.
for infinite.
Yeah, we got to grab that. That's too good to leave behind. No one gets left behind, including
These are the simple facts, guys. This is fact.
Yeah, that's
They don't
powerful.
feel their infiniteness. They feel inferior sometimes. They feel closed. They feel the glass ceiling. We're not feeling glass ceiling here, right? I don't feel any glass ceiling. I feel
And we give them lifetime guarantee. Like
Brian just shattered that glass ceiling for me. I mean, Brian with his life, what he went through with Bob, just shattered the glass ceiling for all of us. He made ways, he made the pathway. We actually have the systems in place. We just need to act and on our, on really believing in ourselves, and then we actually get infinite in our hands for life.
I love that. Love it, love it, love it, guys. Well, this is good. We'll we got this on recording. So Jaleesa,
yes,
thanks
how
for
can
the
you get it?
thanks for the idea. If you're still, I think you're still kicking around.